Hey everyone, it's Dr. Ramani. Happy Mother's Day. You know I've always got something to say on Mother's Day. Well, here I am saying it. So, on this Mother's Day, I got to tell you where my heart is lying. It's for all the mothers out there who are co parenting with a narcissist. In years past, a lot of my focus has been on people who say, oh, great, my mom's been my narcissistic abuser, and now there's a holiday to commemorate this. I've talked about that on Mother's Days past, and believe me, my empathy is with you because I know that that's so hard to almost feel like you're sort of mandated to have to be nice to your mom today. Your mother was never really nice to you. But on this Mother's Day, I really want to take a moment, and I think it relates to some things I've been reading lately about the hard work of co parenting a child with a narcissistic co parent. I know that for many people, mothers who are co parenting with a narcissist, Mother's Day can feel like a real mixed bag. You know, whole idea of Mother's Day, it's silly and all that it is, but that maybe you sort of feel that this is a day for mom to be special. Breakfast in bed, or flowers, or a gift, or brunch, or whatever it is that people do on Mother's Day. But if you have a narcissistic co parent, they may very well disparage you as a parent. If you've already divorced, it may be one more day where you're having an argument about, well, the custody schedule didn't say this, and this year, Mother's Day, and it was one of those things that you were supposed to get into the parenting plan of your divorce decree. And if you didn't, every year, Mother's Day can end up bringing up grief. To have to be a co parent, and in this case, a mother, with a narcissistic partner or ex partner, is an incredibly, incredibly difficult journey. Parenting is hard under the best of circumstances. But to have to do it when you're riddled with anxiety about what having a narcissistic co parent is going to do to your kids, having likely weathered the storm of a difficult divorce or having to weather the storm of a very difficult relationship, and then on top of that, potentially having to deal with the fits and spurts of a very complicated custody process, or to have to constantly sort of wonder, what are they saying to my children? Are things being shared with my children that are sort of painting me in a bad light and confusing your children further? So for that day, in that way, I should say, any day that's solely focused on your role as a mother, as Mother's Day is, can really bring up so much of that grief for you. A lot of people, a lot of mothers who are co parenting with narcissistic parents, whether they're currently in the relationship or their relationship is no longer together, will say that one of their biggest fears have to do with what is going to happen to their child. Here on this one, I ain't going to be able to give you any kind of a Mother's Day gift on this one. The outcomes of what happens for any of us who had a narcissistic parent, something doesn't go perfectly for us. In the vast majority of cases, people who have a narcissistic parent end up going into adulthood and struggling with anxiety. Some social anxiety, anxiety about hoop jumping, anxiety about feeling good enough, and all of that. In a smaller percentage of cases, some of your kids end up modeling the narcissistic co parent's behavior and becoming narcissistic themselves. So I guess then the gift part, the Mother's Day gift part then to moms who are co-parenting with narcissists is what is your hedge against this? What could you do potentially on this Mother's Day where hopefully you do have your children with you to really sort of do this as not only on Mother's Day but on all other days, which is you have to be the bringer and the teacher of empathy, and you have to be the person who's willing to commit to the high road, and it is exhausting, where you are the person who is not saying disparaging things about your narcissistic ex or your narcissistic co parent, where you are the person who is being emotionally present with your children, where you're the one who's making the trains run on time, even when that's being undermined. And when at times you are so exhausted by being in this narcissistic relationship, so the other parent gets to be the happy go lucky parent and the fun parent, and you're left with the far less enviable position of being the disciplining parent, or the parent who sets the rules or forces the homework, or even more difficult, you're not always as cheerful as the narcissistic co parent because you're exhausted from the relationship you're in. And sometimes you worry, are my kids sort of seeing me as this kind of dull, sad, depressed, icky person because I'm not always cheerful, like their narcissistic co-parent. A lot of kids are really smart and they're more onto it than you would think. Again, it's not a perfect formula, and some of your kids, they may fall for the narcissistic co-parent's game. But your best bet, your best hedge in many ways, is to be present, to be emotionally available. So maybe on this Mother's Day, make it a day about healthy emotion. You don't have to do anything grandiose or spend $1 million on brunch. You can be content to say, hey, we can go plant seeds in the backyard and see if they come out in the next few months or next few weeks, really. We can go and we can watch a movie together, and then with your children you can talk about the emotions that the characters may have experienced. You can attempt to create art of any kind with them. Get blank canvases and paint away. That's actually a nice one because there's few places that emotion can flow as good as into art. But if you do have your kids today and you are co-parenting with a narcissist, maybe try to carve out time alone with your kids and tell the narcissistic co-parent they can go do their own thing if you're still together. And have that time, a time where emotion can run free, where none of you are being gaslighted, because that's one heck of a gift. Now, in some cases, I know for some of you who are co-parenting with a narcissistic ex, you don't get to have your kids because you're with a narcissistic person who is that vindictive and spiteful. That's incredibly painful, and I am so sorry. But to whatever degree you can, despite the grief, to be able to give yourself some time today, because I will tell you this, in the journey for a mom who's co-parenting with a narcissist, you do need to create those spaces for yourself where you are kind and gentle and self-compassionate with yourself. It is really a high wire act to co-parent with a narcissist, because in many ways you want that guarantee. Are my kids going to be okay? Is everything going to be okay? No parent has that guarantee. And in some ways, people who co-parent with narcissists struggle with that even more. So this year, like I said, it's a different riff on the Mother's Day video that I often put out. I do want, as always, offer my condolences to those of you who are adults who have your own narcissistic mothers. On this day, to all of you, please also make sure you take good care of you. Instead of getting caught in the grief and guilt vortex of what do I send to your mother, nothing's going to be good enough. So you could even say something perfunctory, no matter what, they're going to criticize you. But this year, really, the co-parenting moms are on my mind. And I know Mother's Day can be complicated. Oftentimes, no breakfast in bed, and sometimes you don't even get to see your children. But know that this is one day, and that on more days than not, when you do see them, you do hit your marks. That all parenting is a leap of faith, all mothering is a leap of faith, and it is a far bigger chasm that you're jumping over when you're co-parenting with a narcissist. So to all of you, whether or not this day is a difficult one or not, if Happy Mother's Day doesn't ring true, if this is a painful and evocative day for you, please make sure as you watch everyone talking all these big mother stories that you do something to carve out a space for yourself. Thanks again.